Hello and happy Friday, everyone. My name is Nick Marro with Occupy Fantasy. I'm here once again to help you break down tonight's MLB DFS main slates on both DraftKings and FanDuel. We're looking at around a 11 game slate tonight. I think we already lost one due to weather. If you haven't already, please like the video. Also subscribe to the channel. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. If you're not a member of Occupy Fantasy, check the links in the description below. As a member, you get access to the model you see here that I'll be using throughout the video. Also, we have a single lineup builder and a multi lineup builder, as well as a private Discord server where you can access DFS pros to help you improve your game. And yeah, this video here or this stream is mostly to help answer slate specific questions. So if you're in the chat, once you like the video, once you subscribe to the channel, pop in, ask your questions. I'll be sure to get to everyone I can over the next 20 to 30 minutes. I'm going to talk through some of my favorite plays now. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into the slate. There is a lot here to break down. So first and foremost, let's start with the pitching. Um, yeah, so a decent pitching slate. And there's a few good arms that I actually do really like here. It's just the issue is that a lot of them are in very difficult matchups. For me, the one arm I think is safe is actually going to be Jacob DeGrom. I know he's facing the Yankees here, but the Yankees have no Aaron Judge tonight. Looking to see if their lineup is out yet. But yeah, they're banged up. No Stanton, no Judge. So we're looking at a lineup of LeMahieu, Rizzo, Torres, Calhoun, Peraza, Cabrera, Cordero, Hicks, and Kyle Higashioka. So this is a terrible Yankees lineup by their own standards. I mean, there's three or four starters that we're not seeing here. Um, so yeah, Degrom's in one of the best matchups on the slate. The Yankees obviously have that name value, but when you look through it and you see who's actually getting up to the plate tonight, it's really just a soft matchup. So um, let's go ahead and check the model here on pitchers. We saw a massive money line move here. I think most of that is because people are seeing this lineup that's come out. Um, and yeah, it's terrible. So DeGrom's a minus 240 favorite here, very likely to get you that win bonus. We're looking at a 1.89K per inning pitch, which is the best on the slate, regardless of sample size. Yes, he's expensive on both sides. Yes, he's going to be high owned, but I do consider him to be the best option on the slate here. He's in top form. He's been really quality lately, so no reasons not to like DeGrom. If you do go to DeGrom, there is another very chalky piece on this slate tonight that is the Arizona Diamondbacks. So if you're going to Grom in Arizona, you're going to have to look for ways to get different with your secondary stack on FanDuel, or maybe mix in the bottom of the order and use a lower owned pitcher over on DK. But if you're going to Grom in Arizona, just know that you're going to be building really about as chalky of a lineup as possible on a 10 to 11 game slate. So you're going to need to find ways to get different. And it looks like the Diamondbacks lineup is out. I'll touch on them in a little bit, but just by mixing in some of the bottom of that order, playing some of the lower owned lefties against Kyle Freeland, who is a lefty. I think that's how you can get different if you are loading up on Diamondbacks. But at the same time, really, I'd rather get different with stacks and stick with DeGrom here. There are other good arms on the slate, but I think he is safer than even the Diamondbacks are against a Kyle Freeland. So I will have lineups with both of them. But again, you're just going to need to make sure you're getting different with the other pieces if that's the way you choose to go. What else do we have going on here? So after DeGrom, I mean, we'll sort by ownership on DK first. I mean, Framber Valdez looks good. Philly, kind of a similar situation as the Yankees, not quite the same. They're a little bit banged up. Still no Bryce Harper, obviously. There's a few other pieces. Um, I mean, they're pretty much healthy otherwise, honestly, other than Rhys Hoskins, who's out for the season. But we're looking at Stott, Turner, Schwarber, Castellanos, Real Muto, Baum, Harrison, Sosa, Pache. So it's a decent lineup for Philly, but really not one we have to be terrified of or anything like that. We see a pretty low team total, just over 3 runs here. Framber's been excellent, consistently putting up good numbers. You get him at a bit of a discount off DeGrom. On DK, I think if you could fit both, go ahead and do it. But we're about to talk about another arm who is just simply too cheap. Alek Manoah for the Blue Jays, drawing a lot of ownership over on DraftKings, not much on FanDuel at all. I don't really have any interest in him over on FanDuel. But yeah, 6,900 for Manoa coming off a really solid start against the Yankees. He's good here. And the price is just too cheap. So even if he's giving up a few runs, as long as he lasts in the fifth, sixth inning, as long as he's getting you 5 or 6 Ks, he should be able to hit value at that price. But again, if you're playing DeGrom and Diamondbacks, you probably don't want to go to Manoah because I do expect that to be the most common build tonight. Other options that we're seeing draw ownership, guys like Lucas Giolito, he's been in questionable form. I know we have the Rays as a stack to consider in the Daily Plug article. David Peterson drawing some ownership. It looks like the weather might be clearing up in that Mets Atlanta game, but he's not really an arm I'm trusting all that often. I mean, you could go to Clark Schmidt coming off a good start opposite the Rangers as a pivot off of Manoah, but I don't know. I think if you go to DeGrom and Manoah, you almost want to go with a different stack unless you're playing smaller field stuff, the lower risk contests, cash games, things like that, because it's going to be tough to get different if you go DeGrom and Manoah. You're going to have to use a stack other than the Diamondbacks probably. So other arms I like personally, like I said, I do really like DeGrom. Most of my lineups are going to have him. I play more on FanDuel, at least currently. I kind of go in waves throughout the season. Right now, I'm just heavier on FanDuel because I have more funds over there. But yeah, I'll be playing a ton of DeGrom tonight on one pitcher site like FanDuel. Um, I like Valdez a lot as a pivot. Probably won't get to much Manoah. Really not all that interested in Giolito. But let's sort by ownership on FanDuel. I mean, we're seeing some go to Aaron Nola. Again, another tough matchup, but a lineup that is a bit banged up. We're seeing no Altuve, obviously, still. No Jose Alvarez, or not Jose, Jordan Alvarez, excuse me. I'm looking at Abreu's name. He's back and healthy. So the Astros lineup looks decent, but at the same time, I don't think we really need to be terrified of them. You could go to Aaron Nola here. Obviously, some risk facing a decent Astros team on the road. He's been better at home historically, but on a slate where it's tough to get different at pitcher, I do like Aaron Nola. Um, Max Fried, if the weather suddenly clears up there, I have some interest in him. Shane Bieber, pretty risky, but obviously just off the arm talent, he's going to have some merit as an option here as well. So really, I think it's easier to get different with the stacks than it is at pitcher tonight. That's why I'm probably just going to eat a lot of DeGrom chalk. I'll play some Valdez, obviously Manoah as an SP2 over on DK, and then just look to get different with your bats. And I do think you want to get some Arizona stacks. They do look outstanding here in cores against Freeland, but I'm going to switch over to stacks now, and we could talk through some of those options. Checking out the stream and the chat. If anyone has any questions, wants me to break down any specific stacks, anything like that, feel free to reach out. Happy to talk through anything. Um, Again, a lot of options to consider tonight, but let's get into the stacks here. So, Arizona, top OF index play on the slate, no surprise there. Atlanta coming in second, though. And I know they're ranked third, but it's because the 640 games have that number too, so you got to kind of readjust. Um, but yeah, if the weather's going to clear up here against David Peterson, I do like the Braves. Obviously, a lot of right-handed power. Matt Olson's fine in lefty-lefty matchups as well. I'm seeing a really low total too, so there's really not much ownership going there. Not only is the total driving people off, but also the weather. So if you can get low on Braves, I do like them as a stack, but keep an eye on that weather. And I'm not a weatherman by any stretch. I will never claim to be. Um, it looks like things are improving there. It sounds like the Mets are in the process rather of taking batting practice. So yeah, the Braves are a stack certainly you could consider. Another stack to consider opposite the Diamondbacks. We're seeing some ownership going to the Rockies. No surprise there. Maybe not as much as one would expect, though. So, if you are playing chalky pitchers, I think the Rockies are probably a better option than just going with the full chalk of the Diamondbacks. I mean, if I'm guessing who's going to score more runs, I'm certainly going to say Arizona, but you do have to play the ownership game. This is DFS. Unless you're playing like a cash game or a 50-50, or that is technically a cash game, then you're going to need to get a little bit different. And I do think Colorado's a place you can go there. Probably my favorite stack for tournaments tonight, and I'll talk through them a little bit here, are the Dodgers. Still waiting on that lineup. All these guys had babies the same week, like Muncy, I think Bellinger, I forget who else. Like they were all on the paternity list, but I think Muncy's back tonight, which is big. Mookie, I think, was in a similar situation. It's like these guys all decided to have kids the same week. But yeah, keep an eye on this lineup tonight. So here's the thing with Flaherty. You look at his ERA. I think a lot of casual fans will look at that ERA for Jack Flaherty, and they're going to see that it's a low like 3.29. But the thing with him is his xFIP is more than two full runs higher, looking at a 5.5 xFIP just about. So what that tells me is he's been very lucky. He's due for considerable regression. We look at the BABIP, it's low, 242. Again, another sign that regression's coming for him. And we already see that he's allowing big power to left-handed hitters, 250 ISO allowed to lefties to start the season, 375 WOBA. 40% fly ball rate, 46% hard contact. So he's been struggling with lefties, and that's before all the regression that we're going to see. And I just really like the Dodgers here. We're seeing a 4.5-ish implied team total. Let me see what our model has now. Yeah, we got them up over 5 runs, which is where I think they should be. But keep an eye on this lineup. If Muncy's back, I like them even more. If we get Outman hitting towards the top of the order, him, Freeman, Muncy would all be priorities. And if you're trying to get a little bit cheaper, you can mix in guys like Hayward, Vargas, Peralta. They're all very cheap from the left side of the plate. And I'm not going to talk anyone off playing someone like Mookie Betts or Will Smith if they are in the lineup. So let's go to the batters section. I'm going to sort by LA and just see who's popping in the model now. Again, this is the latest game on the slate. We don't yet have this lineup, but it is expected we see Muncy back. And oddly enough, the one player drawing significant ownership is a righty. I mean, he's affordable. I love Mookie Betts here. I'm not saying you can only play the lefties, but the lefties profile especially well against Flaherty. So Muncy, Outman, and Freeman all lower owned than they should be. I just really like this Dodger stack in tournaments. You could play chalk and pitcher. You could play DeGrom with Valdez or Manoah over on DK, or play DeGrom with Dodgers bats over on FanDuel. And I think you are going to get different enough. We're seeing all single-digit ownership on these guys outside of Mookie Betts. And as I mentioned too many times already, the lefties are what I prefer here. So just a spot where we're going to see major regression. So let me go ahead and start to build a little bit on DK. I have a window for FanDuel and DK open just to kind of show where I'm at. If I'm playing kind of a larger field single entry type contest, or maybe a 20 max, I don't know, 3 max. I do a lot of hand building. As the season wears on, I do play more and more lineups. I'll probably get into MME, and we have the lineup builders for that on the Occupy site. But for now, let me go ahead and put in DeGrom and Manoah. These are the cash arms. But then when we go to the Dodgers, we're going to get lower owned bats, and then we could maybe fill in some Arizona one-offs, so you don't have to get FOMO going there. But I love Outman from the left side. Muncy, I do expect to be back from his paternity leave tonight. If he's not, that's fine. You can maybe get Bush in there. Who else? I think Freddie Freeman's a priority. Um, and then, yeah, I know he's a righty, but I think Mookie Betts is a little bit too cheap. And let's go with David Peralta. I think him or Hayward, whoever's hitting higher in the order, is going to be more appealing. But then we're left with 3,200 per player. Then we can go click off the Dodgers here, and you're already getting different enough from the field by going with the Dodgers instead of one of the core stacks. Again, I think the Rockies are reasonably owned. Arizona's super, super chalky, though, and I do think they should be. So you can go with some one offs here, maybe get someone like Moreno in at 3,300. Let's see what pops up for third base for them. I mean, Rojas is pricey. Did we get that lineup? I really like Longoria whenever you can get him against the lefty. And then we're going to have to punch shortstop. Probably won't get anything from this game, but that's totally fine. And this lineup right here, I like a lot. You're getting the 5-man Dodgers stack. Definitely lefty heavy against Flaherty, who I expect to regress. And then, yeah, you're just going to plug in some sort of punt at shortstop. And there you go. You got your nice 5-man stack. You go chalky at pitcher, and then just get a little bit different with your bats. So that's where I'm at over on DK. I'm gonna check the chat now. Still no questions. I mean, guys, come on. If you got any questions, please get them in here. Really appreciate it. Um, Helps us get up the algorithm, so when people are searching for this DFS content, we get more viewers and things like that. But over on FanDuel, similar situation. I'm gonna go with DeGrom. I think he's just the best arm on the slate here. Like I said, I like Valdez as a pivot. Castillo's been excellent. Tough matchup against Toronto, but he has plenty of upside. Really not many value arms I like over on FanDuel. Just looking over here now, I do think Nola's priced favorably. He's someone I'd consider. Um, but yeah, there's just no one I'm really rolling the dice on. I guess Schmidt, if you feel really lucky. I mean, and you really want to pay up for bats. But for me, I think DeGrom's probably where I'm going to start. So let's see. I think Muncy's back tonight, as I mentioned. Really like Freeman here. Gonna want to get Outman in the outfields, and then we're probably gonna have to go with someone cheap. Let's see. Vargas. Maybe Vargas makes the lineup, something like that. And then if you go with four Dodgers and DeGrom, you're really going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel for a stack. There are some cheap stacks I like that tonight though, and they actually come from the same game. I like Oakland's and I like the Reds. I think Oakland's going to be lower owned though. Against Luis Sessa, who's just been mostly terrible all season. So really no surprise there. Story Ruiz, if we can fit him, really good steal candidate. I like lefties against Sessa better. So Tony Kemp, I'm hoping gets the lead up. Oh, the lineup just came out. What do you know? Okay, Kemp's hitting like last, so we maybe don't go with Kemp. Diaz, wrong Diaz. We get the other Diaz hitting tonight. So yeah, this gets a little bit trickier given the lineup that they're running out here. But let's see. I think we can go Noda at utility. Jace Peterson is in the lineup. I don't mind him hitting from the left side. He's third base only now, though. I don't know why that is a thing. But yeah, I mean, we could do kind of a wraparound stack, get Kemp in there. Um, maybe Capel, something like this. And then you're left with 2,800. And this is a nice little contrarian lineup. Obviously, this Ace offense isn't all that great. I'm going to have to spend some more time kind of piercing through this lineup now that it's out. But I do like lefties against Sessa. I think they do have upside. Obviously, the worst team in baseball, but it's stacked that no one's going to own, and they are cheap. They make it so you can afford something like Arizona with the Grom or the Dodgers with the Grom. And they're lower owned. So, yeah, you could even probably plug Arizona here and feel pretty good about it. Let's see. Um, how's it going, Matt? Like to hear that you're building as I'm talking. Let's talk through a few other stacks. And like I said, I'd rather eat chalk and pitcher tonight, especially on FanDuel with the Grom. Um, Over on DK, I'm going to be mixing in a lot of Manoah and Valdez if I do end up playing a lot over there. So I talked about the Dodgers. I think they're great here. Another stack I'm going to consider is probably these Rays. Let me just pull up and see if their lineup's out. I'm hoping for a lot of lefties here. So obviously Lucas Giolito is a pretty talented arm when he's at his best, but he has been struggling to start the season. His last start actually came against the same Rays lineup where he allowed 4 runs, and he's been struggling with the lefties similar to with Jack Flaherty, seeing a near 240 ISO against lefties so far to start the season. So maybe we go with some Rays here as well. So again, just to kind of talk through what I like from this team, I'll go ahead and I'll plug in DeGrom. This time, maybe we don't go with Manoa and we try to fit in someone else more expensive. Let's wait and see. I'll leave the SB2 spot open, go over to Tampa. And let's see, I really like the lefties. I'm hoping we get both lows. I like that Paredes is in there. He has huge upside. No Josh Lowe tonight. That's obnoxious. Probably my favorite Ray bat if he did crack the order. And of course, he's not in it. Um, Kevin Cash, man. Ugh, I don't know what he's doing. I don't like this lineup. Um, so maybe the Rays aren't as appealing as I was hoping they'd be. You could go with Siri as a wraparound. That's 4 man. I don't know if we're going to fit a Rosarina. We'll just fill up that catcher spot with Betancourt. I do think he has some upside. So 5 man race stack, not nearly as appealing as I was hoping. I do like that Paredes made the lineup, but I do not like that Josh Lowe is not in there. There was a couple other lefty bats. I'm forgetting who off the top of my head that I thought were maybe going to crack the order, but for whatever reason, Kevin Cash is not playing as many lefties against Giolito tonight. And usually he's a guy who kind of lives and dies by righty lefty splits. So it's certainly surprising to me. So we get a punt first base. So if you're looking for value and you have access to the model, a good way to do this, obviously make sure you're sorting by the right slate. But then you could adjust the salary ranges over on DK, and we got to go really cheap here. So I want a first baseman, say under 2,900, and obviously there's not going to be much. But we got Noda from the A's. I think he's solid, hitting towards the top of the order. I already mentioned I like lefties against Luis Sessa, so we'll go ahead and pencil him in. That should help us get a little more salary for that SP2. And then we got outfield, which is always pretty easy to find value. On the wrong tab. Take out that first base tag, maybe add a little bit more salary, see what we get. But sorting by OF index, I'm seeing Kevin Sheets. Don't mind Pilar if the weather. Kevin Sheets. Gavin Sheets against Tampa. Let's see. I do like Siri, but I'm guessing we already have him. Okay, we could go to Alec Thomas and Coors for 2,900. I think that makes some sense. He was surging as a rookie last season, kind of fell back to earth. Really talented defender, pretty inconsistent with the bat, but you're getting a Coors bat sub 3K here. And then let's see what we're left with if we go with Valdez. So we could double pay up at pitcher, fit a five-man Rays stack, and still fit in some solid one-off. So Ray is another stack I'm considering here. Again, if you're playing single entry small field, if you're playing cash games, I would go with Arizona, DeGrom, and Manoa. But if you're in these larger field tournaments, you're going to have to get different. And I'd rather get different with some of these stacks than the pitching tonight. And there are some decent pitching options, but there's really just not that much good value. And it's really tough to find value that's going to be able to match Alec Manoa in terms of his upside. So if you can fit a double pay up with Arizona, that's a good way to get different. Um, I'll go ahead and give it a try real quick. I'll go DeGrom. I really like Valdez. And then where are these D backs? I know they underpriced a lot of these bats, but I don't know how badly. All right. Yeah, so some of these guys are priced up. I love Walker, love Longoria, like Ahmed. One, two, three, Gurriel, Carroll. So okay, so like the mid bottom part of that order. And yeah, you can do it. You can fit DeGrom and Valdez with five Diamondbacks. So maybe that's how you get different. Valdez is popular though, so I don't know that he's going to be enough to get us different on this ownership. I mean, Zach Eflin. Let's check his game log real quick. Some solid starts lately. This White Sox offense has been terrible, so he's another arm I consider as a way to get a little bit different. Obviously, some risk in him, but you got to take a little bit of risk when you're eating so much chalk. Looking at catcher, I think I still have Arizona selected. But yeah, so you got to punt catcher, you got to punt second, you got to punt outfield. Go back to the model. We're already punting with the salary here. So if Barnes gets the start for the Dodgers, I guess you could go there. Francisco Alvarez for the Mets. If the weather does clear, I guess he's okay. But yeah, I mean, it's easy to find a punt at catcher. I think second base we need as well. We could go ahead and get Trejo from the Rockies. Another Coors bat sub 3K is always going to be appealing to me. Um, and then yeah, back to the outfield. You could go with, let's see here, Sheets, Pilar. I mean, we talked about Siri. I think he's a good play for the Rays, so we could use him as a one-off. And what does that leave us at catcher? 3,800. That's probably more than we even need. So you go with Contreras against Anderson. That's probably what I do. I like some of these Brewers bats against Anderson. That's another secondary stack I like tonight. The Milwaukee Brewers. I'm gonna check the chat now, and then I'll maybe build something with the Brewers over on FanDuel. Um, yeah. So Matt, I think the better way to pivot at pitcher rather than finding something in Manoa's range is to go up. I like Valdez. I think he's fine here. Let's check out the model real quick. I mean, if we're sorting by index, Valdez is up there. Freed if the weather clears. I don't know that I would trust him. The weather's just dicey there, but at 7,700, he certainly feels too cheap. I'd be fine getting up to Castillo. I think the way you get different is to pay up though, rather than try to find something in that range. Anderson's been pretty terrible. I don't know if the surface stats reflect it, but I think his underlying numbers are screaming regression here. Let me pull him up. Yeah, he's got a 6 plus xFIP, allowing greater than a 200 ISO to both righties and lefties, getting smashed by right-handed hitting. So I really don't think I want to go with Anderson. Like I said, I'd rather try to pay up with my SB2 if I'm going to get off of Manoa. The one guy I do kind of like in the mid-range that's drawing no ownership, 1% Zach Eflin, has some interest to me. Bieber against the Red Sox, obviously a tricky spot. Could see him hitting value. But my favorite SB2 is probably Valdez. The issue is he's drawing huge ownership. So Zach Eflin for me is kind of that sneaky SB2, and it's going to be a little bit risky. Don't get me wrong, but I do like him there. Dustin May, another one. Certainly some risk, probably on a short leash against the tough Cardinals lineup, but he has tremendous K upside. So May, even though the model doesn't love him, I'd probably go with Eflin as a pivot off Manoa, though. I think that's a good way to go. I mentioned recently that I would consider stacking the Brewers actually against Anderson. I'm going to go ahead and show you how I would do that right now. Get rid of Oakland. So yeah, I mean we're favoring the righties here for the most part. I don't think you have to worry too much about splits with Anderson. He's been bad against everyone, but at the same time, I mean Contreras hits lefties really well. Adames when he's at his best, he finally seems to be getting his timing down. I don't mind him there. Anderson smashes lefties historically. Um, And then yeah, I guess you could go with a lefty bat if you want. But let's see what else we got here. I mean, Owen Miller's dirt cheap. So, okay, so we got a nice, affordable Brewer stack. They're going to be very low owned. Then you can go ahead and actually play the Chalk Diamondbacks, and let's see what that leaves us um, at pitcher. We go Longoria, Gurriel. I mean, I like Corbin Carroll even against the lefty. May have to pivot off him though if we're trying to afford something nice at SP. But let's take a look. Go Moreno maybe. And that leaves us with 10-7. So we're just shy of DeGrom. I'd like to get to DeGrom if I'm in that range, but you could go Valdez. Something like this looks good. Brewers, Diamondbacks, Valdez, pretty strong, large field GPP lineup. Again, if you're playing small field or cash games, get DeGrom into your lineups tonight. He's just the best pitcher on the slate. Again, the Yankees aren't quite the Yankees right now. No Stanton or Judge in the middle of that order. They're banged up. I don't even think Volpe made the lineup tonight. Let me check on that. Um, but yeah, they're just banged up. Yep, no Volpe either. So three of the Yankees' better hitters are actually out. So plenty of reasons to love DeGrom here. Um, yeah, I'm with you, Matt. Really, really like some Milwaukee. Um, looking at the pitchers you listed, May and was it Eflin? I said not Pavetta. I guess you could maybe go to Pavetta. Cleveland's pretty patient though; they don't K all that much, and he's tough to trust there in Fenway. So I'm about to wrap things up. Not as many viewers as we like, obviously. It is a Friday night though. We may need to start adjusting the schedule. Maybe do some morning shows or maybe stream on days during the week when people are around. I feel like a lot of people like to rush out of the office on Friday. I work from home now, but I know that I was one of those Friday afternoon. If I could get out before 5, I wouldn't blame you. So no knock on anyone here, but yeah, if you're not a member of Occupy, check the links in the description below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you do join the Discord, uh, at me, say hi. I'm always happy to help answer questions in there as well. We have the daily plug article that has been published with our favorite plays. That usually correlates directly to the models you see here, which you do get a member as a member of Occupy Fantasy. We also have the single and multi lineup builder. So plenty of great tools. A nice big slate tonight. I'll do one more quick refresh of the weather to see where we're at. Balt Detroit was postponed. That's not on the slate. Pittsburgh at Washington postponed. It looks like KC at Minnesota is clearing up. That is not on the slate though. And the one game we really have to keep an eye on is that Atlanta at Mets game. If that game does clear up, Freed and the Braves do have some appeal to me. But as things stand, I'll probably mostly avoid that spot. One more recap: if you're playing cash game or small field, I mean Degrom is the best arm on the slate by far. The Diamondbacks are the best stack on the board. But if you're looking to get a little bit different, I do like Valdez. Manoah's going to be the chalk SP2 over on DK. Maybe go to Zach Eflin. I like the Brewers. Really, really like the Dodgers as a secondary stack. Excuse me. Don't mind the Rays here against Giolito. I was hoping we'd get more lefty bats in that lineup. Kevin Cash kind of blue balling me on that one, though, for lack of a better word. One more check for questions. I think that's it. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Should be a really fun slate tonight. Let's have some fun. Take care, and let's make some money.